So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about coding. So the history of coding, comes from CMS, and this is based on a few different things. The American Medical Association's current procedural terminology. It's based on national and local policies, and then reviews of other coding policies. So basically the healthcare common procedure coding system is based on these CMS CPT codes. It's adjusted annually by the National Correct Coding Initiative. The history, continuing the history, most of these codes for PTs are in the 97,000 series, titled Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. Payer policy is always going to take precedent. So if you have a contract with a different insurance company that doesn't use the same types of codes, then you will use that, not the CPT codes. One of the biggest changes that happened recently was in January 2017 when the new eval and reevaluation codes were rolled out. So timed versus untimed codes. Timed is based on two main principles, based on the 15-minute units for total amount of units that can be charged. So basically what this is we all know that between 8 and 22 minutes is 1 unit, between 23 and 37 is 2 units. So the total amount of units, the total amount of minutes tells you the amount of units that can be charged. The other rule is called passing the midpoint. So once you get to 7 minutes and 31 seconds, or over half of 15 minutes, then you can charge for a unit of one type of service. You have to get to over half of that 15 minutes though. Untimed, as the name implies, it doesn't matter how long you spend, you're still going to be getting reimbursed the same. I listed some examples of each of those two types right here. The new evaluation and reevaluation codes. So for the new evaluation codes, there's a couple main things here. We were not going to receive any more reimbursement based on low, moderate, or high complexity evaluations. CMS did say in the future that this might change, so it's important that we document as accurately as possible to encourage them to do so. However, for the reevaluation, we did get a little win. It went from 0.6 to 0.75 reimbursement. Group versus individual. So basically, this is similar to that crossing the midpoint. If you're working with direct one-on-one with one patient for over 7 minutes and 31 seconds, then you can charge them for at least 1 unit of an individual charge. If, on the other hand, most of your time is just spent instructing several people all at once, there's no time that adds up to 7 minutes and 31 seconds or higher, then all of your charge is going to be group therapy. And I have a more elaborate example right here for you to look at, but it's based on that crossing the midpoint. Modifiers. So there's several different purposes of modifiers. One is to tell you what type of professional did the service. So OTs, PTs, and speech language pathologists all use the exact same modifiers. Sorry, my battery's getting low. There's just different modifiers to tell you which one did this. The CQ modifier tells you if a physical therapy assistant did the service, did more than 10% of the service. There's modifiers that tell you if it's a non-covered service. The GX is if you give an advance beneficiary notice to the patient ahead of time, while the GY is if you do not. The KX modifier, we've talked about quite a bit, is used for medically necessary treatments after the patient has gone over their annual threshold with Medicare services. The X and the 59 modifiers, I'm going to talk about in a lot more detail. They're used if you need to bill for 2 services that could sometimes be charged at the same time, but you perform them separately. I'm going to be talking about that more. So edits, the National Correct Coding Initiative edits, there's 3 main types. So there's procedure to procedure edits, there's medically unlikely, and there's add-on edits. I don't have time to go into all the detail on that, but I've attached more information here. The outpatient code editor is a type of procedure to procedure edit. As the name implies, it's mostly used in the outpatient setting, but it's a little more complex than that. So I attached a link that shows all the various settings where it can be used. This outpatient code editor is going to let the therapist know when there's some type of error in their billing. It can result in anything from having to resubmit and readjust and resubmit their claim to they can't adjust it, they just have to appeal it. So to better explain this, I'm giving you an example. A therapist that I work with at my clinical site, she was doing carpal tunnel massage treatments on a patient, and she was also doing tendon glide exercises with that patient. Now, sometimes these two things could be done at the same time, which would just be one charge, but she did them separately, but she forgot to put a modifier on it. So that this outpatient code editor software notified her and told her, you got to resubmit this with the correct modifier. National effect of all these different codes on the physical therapy profession. Basically, almost everybody's going to have to use these CPT codes. There are some places where the insurance companies are different, the codes are different, but for the most part, everybody will. There's also different software and outsourcing options that you can look into to make your life a little bit easier. The daily impact on the physical therapy profession. So as far as policy and procedure development, again, it's going to follow Medicare. Almost everybody is going to have to follow the coding policies of Medicare. If you do have an existing contract with another insurance company, that will take precedent. As far as financial planning, there's a process improvement initiatives that can happen. At the place, my clinical site, they did one where they invented new codes to help track the reimbursement of phonophoresis versus iontophoresis, and found out they were wasting quite a bit of money on the phonophoresis. So they started using a GX or a 59 modifier and a GX with an advanced beneficiary notice. So even though it was non-covered, it was still cheaper for the patient and for themselves. And the details are attached right here. And again, this coding software can help in determining correct codes for reimbursement.